So I would say this question is definitely one of the more difficult ones. So let's go ahead and jump in and see if we can break it down. Now, first off, I would say that units are really key when helping to simplify things. So we know that we're trying to get at least 500 milligrams. So that means 500 milligrams or more. And I'm going to go ahead and put milligrams here. Normally, I wouldn't put it in an inequality or in an equation, but it's going to help us to know what everything represents in terms of the variables and what units we want as an outcome. Now, it's talking about calcium in particular when we're discussing 500 milligrams or more, right? So let's specify that because they go on to discuss grams as well. So it then says that in 95 grams of kale, there's 143 milligrams of calcium. Well, we want milligrams to be the final unit for calcium, milligrams. So in order to have a certain unit more or less dominate, it needs to be in the numerator so that the other units would end up canceling. So if we're saying 143 milligrams for 95 grams of kale, we're going to want the grams to cancel. And the only way to do that is if there's a certain number of grams of kale. Now, they don't specify that anywhere, so we're going to say K grams of kale so that the grams cancel. And I'll go ahead and put parentheses here to try to make it a little bit clearer. And then we'll continue in that fashion to say in 55 grams of figs, remember the grams is going to go in the denominator. It says there are 126 milligrams of calcium. And so what are we going to put as our variable? Well, we'll use F for the grams of figs. Again, that's going to cancel here. And then our top inequality there is going to be in milligrams. The milligrams of kale, the milligrams from figs, in total to be greater than or equal to 500 milligrams total in calcium. And then the only other condition that we have from Dr. Zhu here is that the daily intake should be no more than 400, keep in mind grams, so 400 or less for the actual mass of the figs. And that was in grams anyway, so we're good to go there. Well, now we have a system of linear inequalities, but remember with linear inequalities, it's different than linear equations. So I wouldn't use solve systems here, but we can go ahead and figure out now which combination would satisfy these specific conditions. Now, right away, the easier of the two is the fact that F should be less than or equal to 400. So in which of these is the fig intake greater than 400? Well, only in option D, but at least we could eliminate that one and get it to a 1 in 3 chance for ourselves. And now we can really just start plugging things in to see which one satisfies this top linear inequality. So we'll go ahead and type in, and I would use alpha y equals to make it an exact fraction and not do any rounding. I'll press right to go to the denominator. So then I input the kale. Now, it's really important to be careful of order. The way that we wrote it, we had grams of kale, grams of figs. Here, they have it figs, then kale. So we just want to be careful. We want to make sure we go ahead and put kale first. So we'll put 240 plus, and then we'll do the same thing here. We'll do alpha y equals, enter the fraction, 126 over 55, and then we'll replace the figs with 40. Let's see if that gives us at least 500. Well, that's a pretty crazy looking fraction. So I'm just going to do 94,656 divided by 209. Nope, didn't work. So I know I can eliminate option A, and we'll go on to option B. Well, you might be thinking, isn't this going to take a really long time? Yes and no. Now if I press up a couple times until I get back here, I'm going to press enter, and I'm just going to replace the 240 with 50. And notice that means I'm going to have an extra digit, right? So if I put a 5 there, I don't want that 2 in front. I'm going to press delete to get rid of it. And then I'll scroll to the right, and we're going to replace the previous 40 with 150. So there I could put 1. And if I want to insert a 5, remember you could press second delete. Now that's insert. And really I could type as many digits as I want and it keeps shifting it, which is nice. I only needed the 1 there, but just to kind of show you it's a pretty neat feature. We'll press enter, and same idea. Let's go ahead and figure out what that's equal to. And actually, instead of doing the division there, I was thinking we were in a program, but we weren't. I could just do alpha y equals and turn that fraction to a decimal by pressing 4, but still, it doesn't exceed 500. So at this point, it's pretty safe to say the answer is C. However, let's see this problem all the way through. So let me go back here, and I'm going to replace the 50 with 200, which means I'll put a 2, and then I'm going to need to press second delete so that I really insert an extra digit. And then we'll go over to what was previously 150, and we're just gonna put 200 instead. And then I'll change this to a decimal by pressing 4, and it does exceed 500, so the correct answer is C.